Oh, hello again, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for visiting once again. And as I zero in, as it were, on 2,000 subscribers, to all of you that have subscribed up to now, I wanted to say a very big thank you. And to those of you who are visiting for the first time, thank you very much for coming along. Maybe it was the Canberra that interested you. I do hope it was. It's completed now, and I'll show you a little bit of that in a minute. But if it is your first visit, please do feel free to subscribe and perhaps even like the video maybe. I'm going to take you through this one now, but thank you in advance for doing so. It doesn't cost anything, it helps the channel grow, so there we are. Anyway, this was the Airfix 1/48 scale Canberra. It's I think a relatively elderly model. I'm sure somebody on Scale Mates will be able to say something about that in the comments. Do feel free to do so. The first one that comes along, I will probably pin it, and you can all then look and see the vintage of this kit. I think it's fairly old. I'm not sure it's in production anymore, and I'm not much of a kit collector, to be honest with you, but as I do like to turn these things into something that people can look at. And that's what I've done here. I've done it with the TSR2, and I shall do it with a Lightning. So this is the second in a group of videos that I shall do, or a series of videos that I shall do. And these were all aircraft, so the TSR2, the Canberra and the English Electric Lightning, all aircraft that were test flown by Roland Beaumont, who passed away a few years ago, I believe, and God rest him. But a very accomplished pilot, and a very good test pilot as well. There are some very good videos on the YouTube on which you are watching this, where you can find some film of him being interviewed regarding his daring do and so on. It's really well worth taking a look at them. I would say very well worthwhile. Anyway, so yeah, 1/48 scale. Is there anything really to look out for here? The key point with a Canberra, an aircraft like this, is obviously because it has what's called tricycle undercarriage, so one wheel at the front, two at the back. There is a tendency for the thing to balance backwards like this unless you put weight in. Now, the instructions say that you put in 100 grams, but they also actually say that you put it in a place about in a space that's about there. So it's behind the rear two seats. One is for the navigator, which is on that side, and the other one is for the bomb aimer. So the bomb aim, I'll talk about that in a minute. But it's this little space here behind that cockpit bulkhead and the beginning of the bomb bay, the bomb compartment, which is there. Now, it's not a lot of room, I will say. And so what I've tried to do with this is to employ gaps elsewhere. So, for example, underneath the bottom part of the floor here, let's get my poker, which is over here, underneath the bottom part of the floor panel in there, and we will do some zooming or zeroing in depending upon which you care for more, and we'll have a look at what we can. But underneath that compartment there is a space. It's not a very big space, but what you can do with that is you can put lead weights into that. I might have some here somewhere, but it's here we are. Look, I won't open this pack up, but this is just a roll of lead tape, and what you do is take it off the roll, fold it up, and it will create quite a lot of weight. I think that's around about 50 or 60 grams from memory. And remember, with lead, it's a very good idea when you take it out the pack to seal the pack up immediately, because what will happen is that lead corrodes quite readily in air, and the air inside a house tends to be, well, you know, it's relatively moist in terms of it's probably at maybe 30% humidity. If it's between 40 and 60% humidity, then you might start to get problems with damp and mould on exterior walls, but that's a whole nother thing anyway. But use the lead weights if you can, if you get hold of them. I actually put a bolt in this side underneath, where, because the pilot's controls just on the left side that you see here give me a gap in at about that level there, and you can put a bolt in there. So I put a bolt in there, and the more weight you put further forward, the less weight you have to put back, because you can see the aircraft is going to balance around this point. So you can put a lot of weight here or less weight progressively here. I ended up, I think, with about 65 grams, something along that line, and that got the balance. But there's a few operations obviously to perform before that, the most important of which is to get the cockpit. Now, my lesson on the cockpit here, to be perfectly truthful with you, is that you can go into some detail, and I did equal detail on all of the 3 seats, but you hardly see anything in the rear seats. You can just about make out the ejection seat pull handle. So let's come in on that and show you that. You can sort of see that there, can't you? Let's just see if we can play a little bit of light onto this, so that you can see that a bit better now. So you can see the ejection seat pull handles there. You can just about make them out in there and there. So these were the ejection panels here. So when the co-pilot and bomb aimer ejected, they came up through these sections here, hence these little triangular logos here. And the only thing you can really see in any detail, of course, is this. So I've created we are Misteron encrusted here. You can see the Misterons here. So I don't know if you can show the without the Misterons. No, that's going to be difficult. There is a lap ejection pull handle there, which is hard to see. See if we can get in a little bit further. You can just about make it out. Let's see if we can point it out. You can just about make it out just above the pointy there, and they're the 2 handles there. So those are the over shoulder handles, and that's the underfloor handle, or the under seat handle. So just so that you're aware in terms of the requirement, pulling that handle, the ejection seat handle, is about the same weight as lifting a bag of sugar. It's very easy to do, and the travel is, as I gather, is only about that much, probably less. It doesn't have to go very far at all. It's not like it's not like you're pulling a zip starter on a lawnmower or something like that. So it's, at the point at which you wish to leave the aircraft in a, shall we say, unscheduled manner, things need to happen quite quickly, and most people who eject from aircraft end up being in hospital for at least a short period with spinal compression, because you go from 0 to really pretty quick, very rapidly, and you're thrown clear above and behind the aircraft, and away you go. So that's quite an important thing. So I detailed in those handles there. In terms of the control panel itself, you possibly can see this. Let's see if we can. Again, I'm going to try and do a little zero in there if we can, and just try and place some light on it. Yeah, you can just about see that. Oh, there we go, look. So you can see what I've done with the control panel, the instrument panel at the front here, and I've done it on the side as well, is to give an impression of some detail, because this is the original control panel, the original instrument panel, just by using a silver pencil. And it's really terribly simple. Just a plain old silver pencil, just like that. And you simply draw them on. You can do it with a brush if you want to, and if your brush skills are good, then you'll be able to do it. But the pencil is a very cheap trick, really, quite honestly, and can be done but very easily. So as you can see, we've got a little bit of dust there. It's, I think, on the outer surface, but it's worthwhile, cleaning. And you can see the other detail inside the cockpit there. So the problem with the cockpit in terms of detailing it is that it's all dark. It's NATO black inside there, and therefore you can't actually see a hell of a lot. So what we'll try and do is just shine a little bit of light down here so that you can look through this, and I'll see if I can demonstrate to at least some degree. There we go. Let's see if we can just zoom in on that. So there we go. We can start to see some of the bits and pieces of additional detail as we shine down through. But see if we can give some light. No, it's almost impossible to shine any light into the front section here, because there's the bomb aimer's couch is just on the starboard side here, and we'll get out of that very highly magnified area. So on the right hand side of the front here, in terms of just rearwards of this bubble here, there is the bomb aimer's couch, which I've added in. There's also some additional material in terms of boxes and bits of wire and so on and so forth that I also added in, thinking that might be visible. But as you can see, it really isn't very easily. So I'll tell you what we'll do. This is quite large. I'm going to move it around a bit and see if we can perhaps shine a little light in. Now, where's my little tiny torch gone? It's gone somewhere. It was here, but it seems to have disappeared. I was going to shine a little torch in through this front section here because that door's open, and the door. The idea of having the door open there was to actually be able to shine a little bit more light on the subject by allowing you to see, precisely what was going on. But that's not going to be possible. But the unfortunate thing is you can't make out an awful lot of that detail. Finally, in terms of the cockpit itself, as you can see, I've added in let's see if we can show you this. There we go. I've added in, there's a handle here, a grab handle, which I think is, let's have a quick look. What is it? Yeah, that's the grab handle there, and this one is the handle where the release lever goes. And if you look really carefully, you can just about make out the release lever. It's not quite visible, but there's that little release lever on that, and I used a riveter to actually put some additional, detail in there. There's a little piece of wire there to add some more detail, and so on. So, and then if you look up inside there, you can see the control wiring for the cockpit that goes back to the navigation equipment back there, and feedback instrumentation and all that sort of thing, and that's in there as well. So. For me, detailing is a lot about perhaps what you can't see as much as it is what you can, and I like to try and get a little bit of that in at least. Interestingly, on the door there is a helpful message for anybody who doesn't understand that this is the entrance. There you are. I expect that's for a bomb head, that one. Not very clever, but they can lift heavy weights. But no, it's for people who aren't familiar with the aircraft. They know which side to get in, and of course this little section here was the external door release there that you could get the door to come up. And pilots, navigators and bomb aimers used to regularly hit their heads on these things. That's not advised, let's put it like that. So Cockpit was, again, it's uneventful. You can build it from the box and not a lot can be seen, but you can add a little detail in that might be quite striking there. The excellent hobby time reminded me that these plain view windows on this particular aircraft, there were two, because it was set up for having two side by side, so I've removed that, and that's dead easy to do. So you can remove details with this sort of clear file system, and you just use a fine one of the fine files there, and you just simply rub it away, and it leaves really no scar and no detail left of it. So you've then just added another bit of realism to it. In terms of the fits of the two body parts here were pretty good. I don't think we had too many problems there. Not really any issues with ghost seams or anything like that. I did have one or two areas of difficulty with pitting with the wings here on occasions, which I've covered up, I think, reasonably efficiently. If you look really, really closely, they are they're visible, but I mean, it's not that bad. The decals, these are decals here, went down extremely well, and as you can see, there's really no or none to speak of, legend of the backing paper. That's worked really well. Those decals were very good. The roundels, I've used paint masks. So as you can see, the roundels give no impression of depth. I dislike decals on 1/48 scale models because they leave a ridge no matter how much you try, and I'd rather have no depth if I can. If you were to scale down 1/48, paint layer, the decal's much too thick. I know it's rivet counting, and everyone will say, "Now look here, Zinners, stop bloody rivet counting, you silly man." But it's just one of the things I think they look better. And one of the things you will see, and I'll point this out to you, is that's the blue of the decal, because I used a decal here. And this is a good illustration of how well these went down. You can see that panel line actually covered there by the decal, went right into the panel line. It was very good. I was quite pleased with that. And then underneath, the lettering again is painted in, because I didn't use the original decals for the painting. I used WD937, which to the best of my recollection was the aircraft that was actually flown by Roland Beaumont. So there we are. That was something I thought I would do there. It was a nice little, I felt that was a nice little touch, and it added some uniqueness to this. The paint finish is the standard RAF paint finish of the day. I've slightly glossed it because these looked slightly glossy. They weren't weathered to the extent that they were dirty. These aircraft in the RAF in the 50s, 60s, 70s, they're kept ridiculously clean. They really are looked after terribly well. So what I've done with this, I've used the excellent Outlaw paints. There's an example of the same. It's an acrylic lacquer, and it's really very good. These things went down jolly easily, and I masked these rather than doing it freehand, and that way you get the sharp line. Although, because I've used scissors to cut these curves, sometimes they're a bit sharp. You can see one there that's a little sharp, I don't know if we can go in a little bit on that. Yeah, you can see one there. It's a bit sharp. It's a bit sharper than it needs to be. But when you apply the paint initially, it comes up really flat, and it makes the surface really uninteresting. So layer of gloss varnish, and got the decals onto it, and then varnished over the top of it, having put the roundel markings down and so on. And from thence, what I did is we used a blue for grey wash on this, and this just lifts it. It seems to lift the finish and give it a much more, I'd like to say 3D quality, but I think you might know what I mean by that, when I say this. But it doesn't make it look dirty. It just makes it look more real, I think, is the best way of describing it. The difference in finish is striking, so there we are. That's WD937 modelled by good old Zinners, and I'm quite pleased with the result. It seems to have come out reasonably well. Did I make mistakes? Yeah, one or two, I think. There's one or two areas where I've missed out on panel lines of scoring them in, and various other bits and pieces. If I look really carefully, I can see some errors, and consequently I wouldn't put it into a competition. But then, I will put something into a competition at some stage, I think, because obviously I've written about that on my Substack. And if I do put something into a competition, maybe I'll see you there. I hope that I do. So there we are. That's the Canberra. I'm sorry for the slight delay on getting this out there. I've been uptaken with other things, and as you probably know, those of you who keep track of my movements up and down the county, that the cricket season's now upon us, and I had a few spare minutes to be able to just go through a quick end of term review for this one, as it were. And I'm hopeful that you like what you see. Obviously, as I say, if you do like what you see, then please come and feel free to visit again. Just to let you know where we are, hiding in the shadows there in the light now is the Sherman. As that's a very good example, actually. This is before a tank's been varnished or had anything done to it. I've painted that a dark green and then highlighted some areas, and it's very flat, as you can see. It's very almost two-dimensional, and then the next challenge is to try and bring that out. This is what we did with or what I tried to do with the Canberra here, and I hope it's worked. You be the judge. So there's the Sherman. The SR71 is coming to towards a conclusion now. There's about 1,500 decals still to put on it, but although I've got the upper surface decals on, I need to put the lower surface ones on as well. So that's being done steadily. After that, then I shall be adding some realism, shall we say, as much as I can from the references, but I'll do a video on that and I will show you that. So do feel free to turn up and have a look at that one. I'd be more than happy to see you. And in the meantime, there'll be other projects coming on. I have a Lysander down there in my, we call it a stash, I think. Yes, I have a stash. There we are. I have a Lysander down there. I have an English Electric Lightning in 1/48 scale. I've got another 1/32 scale Qatari Spitfire Mark 1 early. What else have we got? I've got the F-16 Fighting Falcon, the so-called lawn dart. I've also got a Tempest, Tempest Mark 5, no, Mark 3 I think it is. It's the one with the Bristol Centaurus engine. That's the special hobby one I reviewed back along, and goodness, thousands of you watched that. That was very nice. Thank you very kindly to you all. So there's a few things to look at. There's a few things I shall be doing. I also will look at doing another after the Sherman's finished, another simple tank, and I might call this Simple Models series or something. I won't do a review. I'll just do build, and you can see it being put together. So I shall do a series of simple models, and we'll call that Simple Models. I think that's probably the best way of going, and there seems to be some interest in it, and if you think that would be interesting to you, then absolutely excellent. Some of the reviewers who looked at it were very kind and said they liked to see that sort of thing, and so I will do that for those people. I think that's probably a good thing to do. Probably a good idea to do what your viewers like. But anyway, hope you like this, and I'll catch up with you on the next one. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves and carry on modelling. We'll see you soon. Goodbye for now.